Hey guys, it is episode number 7, I believe. It's January 20th, 2023, and this is David Coleman Daily Thoughts. It is Friday, thank God. It's been a very long week. Ready to have some time off for the weekend. I'm going to Topgolf tomorrow. Haven't been golfing in probably at least 2.5 years. Probably coming up on 3, and the last time I golfed, it was probably at Topgolf. So I'll be at Topgolf tomorrow, and I'll let you guys know how that goes. Funny enough, I used to golf quite a bit as a child. I took golf lessons, and that was a lot of fun for me. Maybe I'll put something up about my terrible golf swing because I haven't been able to practice in like 3 years. So, besides that, it was a good week. Got a lot done. We were having some problems with our CNC plasma table, some grounding issues. So we tried a whole bunch of stuff. My dad and I think we figured out some stuff, some things, but there's some more testing that we got to do in order to get that stuff done. But anyway, today we're going to talk about, well, let's see, the 4 major topics that I have written down right now. Or, there might be a couple extra things that we fit in there. First one is going to be the light heavyweight title for the UFC this weekend. I believe it's UFC 283. I hope that's right. It's Jamal Hill versus Glover Teixeira. And why that's even a fight to begin with. I'm not entirely sure. There's a whole bunch of extenuating circumstances that happened before that fight that has caused that fight. I watched a video, I believe it was 2 days ago, from Joe Rogan. And I'm a big, maybe not, conspiracy theorist is a very weird term now, but I do pay attention to a lot of the history. I'm a big history buff when it comes to like ancient Egypt and the younger Dryas impact theory and stuff like that. Randall Carlson and oh my gosh, Graham Hancock. I almost forgot his name there for a second. They're 2 people that I pay attention to quite a bit. I follow them on social media and follow the updates on that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that because Joe Rogan had Jimmy Corsetti and Ben Vander Kerwick. That's a heck of a name. They were both on his podcast here this past week, and they were talking about Atlantis and some of the other ancient civilizations that are a possibility that they could be out there, and some of the evidence for that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, gloss over it. I did want to mention another topic that actually I'm extremely excited about. I've been waiting for like a year now. The Critical Role. For those of you who don't know, Critical Role is it's a streaming show, I guess, the best way to put it, on Twitch TV, that's hosted by Matthew Mercer. It's a Dungeons and Dragons. I know it's super nerdy, but I have some of my nerd stuff that we'll get into. I do the Bitcoin thing and the crypto, so this is another nerd facet of my life. But Critical Role has their own animated TV show called The Legends of Vox Machina, and that second season of that show came out today. So if you haven't watched it yet, watch it immediately, like right now. Watch the first season, watch the second season. I'm on my second watch through today alone of the first 3 episodes, so it's fantastic. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the feud now between political commentators, Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire. Man, I have so many conflicted thoughts on that whole deal, and I'm not sure where to start on that, but I'm just going to kind of go and riff on that, and we'll just start with that so we can get that out of the way. I had tweeted something earlier or responded to someone on Twitter about what I thought about the circumstances behind this whole ordeal. And for those who don't know, Steven Crowder had put out a video here earlier this week, basically outlining the contract negotiations that he has gone through here since he was going to be leaving the Blaze. And the Blaze, I believe, is owned by Glenn Beck and a couple other people. And he's leaving the Blaze and taking the Mug Club elsewhere, but he's been negotiating his contract with other organizations like the Daily Wire and a couple other places since then. And he has revealed, and he had gone through in this video on YouTube where he had talked about some of the clauses that were within this contract. Once again, the way that they're phrasing it, the Daily Wire, is they're calling it a term sheet, which I have not done a lot of negotiations when it comes to term sheets or offers in that regard, because most of my business has been dealing with vendors, and I don't do a lot with like talent. I'm not a media personality, so I don't really have that same kind of negotiation capabilities. Mine are more based on materials and part costs and stuff like that. So I don't know all of the details, but he did go through some of the things that were within the contract, and that kind of, he did not outright, and this was part of the tweet that I put up earlier, he did not outright call out that it was the Daily Wire, but some of the things that were within the contract made it almost obvious who the offer was from. But the offer was for like $50 million over 4 years, I believe, with a 2-year re-up at the end of that for more money, and there were some clauses in there that I didn't like, but it was a starting offer that you could work off of, and I totally understand that. That there would be further negotiation past that, and my philosophy on that one is as follows. Steven Crowder is a pretty well-renowned and well-established conservative comedian and commentator, and some of the, I don't think he needed to go this far in order to call out some of his friends. And the offer, I think, was pretty, favorable. But, once you get to a certain level of talent in that field, I don't even know if there's organizations big enough to give you that much money. Maybe Fox News or something like that, they'll be able to give you, he was looking for $30 million. They offered him 50 over 4 years. So, $30 million over 4 years or whatever would be $120 million. And I don't think the Daily Wire has that kind of money. And I'm not sure who really does have that kind of money besides maybe, like I said, Fox News. And that's about it. Who would be able to offer that to him. And then if he went on Fox News, he wouldn't be able to say the things that he wants to say and do the bits that he wants to do and do all the things that he'd like to do. And then they would have the control over the entire show itself. So, but the problem I really have with the way that Steven Crowder went about this is he almost called out his friends without calling them out by name. And a lot of people are saying, oh, well, he didn't say it was the Daily Wire. He didn't do this. He didn't, it wasn't obvious that it was the Daily. It was pretty obvious. I mean, they had ad reads on there about having 2 ad reads every, certain show. There was some language in there that was pretty specific on where it would come from. But of course, the Daily Wire and Jeremy Boring came out and claimed that the offer letter was from them and tried to explain that. Tried to explain the clauses, and it did make sense. I watched the whole video from Jeremy Boring, and as a business owner myself, you really do have to protect yourself in cases of a downturn in the economy or a downturn in your industry or YouTube striking you or whatever, so I understood where he was coming from. But I think, and Steven then had a good point in return where he was basically saying, this is okay for me. The deal didn't work out between the two of us, the Daily Wire and Steven Crowder. But for younger audience, not for younger audience members, for younger talent in the industry, they're not going to have the lawyers or other people to go through and kind of negotiate this kind of stuff, and they may not be able to come to a better deal in their benefit when it came to younger talent in the industry, right? And I do understand where he's coming from there, because if it was a person who is not as well known and had been offered from this Daily Wire, because they have a whole bunch of clauses in there saying if you don't produce content at this rate, then you may be docked by this amount. The content is theirs in perpetuity, which totally makes sense, because if they pay for it, then obviously it is their rights. However, there should be some kind of clause in there. Since I helped create it, I should get some kind of percentage of this through perpetuity, because I did help create it, and a lot of these media pieces take a long time in order to develop and build, and that's a lot of the content creators' job to do that. So there's some things on both sides I really didn't like. I really don't like the whole conflict in general. I think it's kind of stupid, and I don't like that Steven started it. I don't like that Jeremy Boring was I don't like some of the parts of the contract that would limit younger talent members from being able to grow their audience, and if they ever left, they would almost leave with nothing basically, except for what they were paid. And then I think Ben Shapiro, who is another, I believe, a partner in Daily Wire, also came out and just took an absolute hatchet to Steven Crowder on his show today, on his daily show, and that was kind of. He basically called him a despicable backstabber, basically. I don't know what the exact terminology, but they are going after each other. And you know what? I'm not sure what the proper response is, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know exactly what should have happened or what either side should have done. I don't think Steven should have started this. I don't think that it was a bad contract negotiation that didn't work out. We probably should have just gone separate ways and then continued with our buddy-buddy relationship that wasn't business related, right? But now we have two of the largest conservative commentators, one in Steven Crowder, who is himself, right? And then you have the Daily Wire, who is an amalgamation of Matt Walsh, and my favorite is Andrew Klavan, Ben Shapiro, Jeremy Boring, Candace Owens, and Jordan Peterson. I love Jordan Peterson. I love his writing. I'm not as big of a fan of his shows on the Daily Wire. I really, really love his videos that were independent and his books. So if you don't know Jordan B. Peterson, please go look him up right now. You need to read 12 Rules to Life. That's his very famous book, and you absolutely need to read it. Regardless, I think it's all pretty dumb, and I hope that they can resolve this peacefully and come to an agreement where we can all just go our separate ways, and we can continue to move the conservative movement forward without this infighting and contract negotiation BS. One of Steven Crowder's points was that the big thing that we're doing here is a conservative movement that's going to be sustainable into the future, with new, younger talent, and that totally makes sense, because these people will eventually either want to retire or want to go do different things, or if it takes long enough, they may pass away, or whatever. Rush Limbaugh passed away only a couple of years ago, and he was a huge figurehead in conservative radio that helped to start the conservative podcast industry, basically. So I think we got to get past this in some way, and I'm going to keep you guys updated on what's going on with that. But in my view, I think both parties are kind of in the wrong in different ways. One is the style of, or one of them is how Steven Crowder went about this to begin with, and how he kind of outed some of his best friends. I know he didn't name them by name. I totally get that. And the Daily Wire, on the other side, I don't like a lot of their contract negotiation, or what with the contents of their contracts. Let's just say that. One thing I really didn't like from Steven was the recording of the phone call. I think that's pretty shady, especially if they're supposed to be your friends. I don't agree with that. So I'll just put that out there. That was kind of a shady deal for me. Okay, let's get off that. We got through the hard topic first. Jamal Hill versus Glover Teixeira tomorrow. UFC 283. I believe it's in Brazil. I believe it's in Rio de Janeiro. And I don't know where Jamal Hill came from. I got to be honest with you guys. Glover fought Jiri. I'm not even going to try to pronounce Jerry's last name because I can't talk today anyway. But Jerry was the former light heavyweight who, I believe, destroyed his shoulder and had to vacate the title in order to create this fight to begin with, because I believe it was Glover versus Jerry for the title as a rematch, and that fell through. And then, man, you had Anthony Smith, who wanted a part of this whole championship thing, and then Jamal Hill, who I don't even know who he's fought recently that would even put him in a position to be a contender for the light heavyweight title. Let's actually look that up. Jamal Hill. Yeah, I'm gonna look this up because I have no idea. I have no idea what this guy has done that he could possibly even think about being a contender. Okay, we've got he fought 3 times in 2020. OSP, he won against him. It looks like there was a draw, I guess, so we're not even going to go into that, against Kilson Farias de Abreu, who I don't know who that is. He won against Darko Stosic, don't know who that is. Then we've got, he beat Jimmy Crute. That makes sense. Jimmy's kind of on his last leg. Paul Craig, looks like his only loss, Jamal Hill's only loss is Paul Craig. Paul Craig is an absolute monster who's also fighting this weekend. He's fighting Johnny Walker. Then he fought, he got canceled again. Looks like, sorry, okay, so he was going to fight Paul Craig on March 20th. Jamal and Paul Craig were going to fight, and then that got canceled and rescheduled for June. Paul Craig beat him. Okay, 2022. He beat Thiago Santos, which, I mean, that's a pretty impressive win. Thiago was a contender for the light heavyweight belt at one point. And then he beat Johnny Walker, I believe. Looks like pretty quickly. It was within two or 3 minutes of the first round. Johnny Walker is Johnny Walker. I really don't find him that impressive. Everyone thought for a while that he was going to be the next champion or next contender for the light heavyweight division. I didn't see it. 2023, he beat, he hasn't beat anyone, of course. This is one of the first events of the year. UFC 283 tomorrow at 10 p.m. I still just don't understand. I don't understand why he's fighting for the title. It doesn't make any sense to me. And not that the light heavyweight division is kind of like not, It's not very deep right now. But, I mean, even Paul Craig beat him. I mean, and Paul Craig is fighting Johnny Walker now, who Jamal Hill beat. But I think that it would have been a better matchup for, like, maybe Paul Craig versus Glover Teixeira or Anthony Smith in there. Like, you know, I think Jamal Hill should have faced Anthony Smith first or another big-name contender, rematch of Paul Craig, in order to get into that light heavyweight championship match. Don't understand why he's in there right now. I know there's a lot of shit going on, excuse my French, with the Jiri thing and the injury and all this kind of stuff, but I just don't. I'm not for it. So, in my opinion, I hope Glover wins. I think Glover is a fantastic man in general. He's 43 years old. He's been fighting for like 20 plus years. He's fantastic on the ground. He's got decent hands, and I hope Glover wins. I think the only way probably that Jamal's going to win is he's going to put his lights out, and that's pretty much his only strategy is go for the knockout and hope that he gets it. So we'll see tomorrow. I'll talk to you guys about it as soon as I'm not sure if I'm going to do weekend videos. I probably won't for now, but I'll talk to you guys about it on Monday when we get back. So stay tuned for that. Kind of a weird light heavyweight fight, and I don't talk much about MMA, but there are certain fights I do like to talk about and certain fighters that I'm really interested in. So there's your MMA tip or your MMA knowledge for the day, and then. Okay, let's do things keep getting older. Okay, so we had talked about, or I had introduced the idea of Atlantis and ancient Egypt being older than what it sounded like. We're already at 16 minutes, so I'm not going to get too much into this, and we may need to save this for a topic for another video. But you should really look up Randall Carlson. You should really look up Graham Hancock. Jimmy Corsetti and Ben Vanderkerwick. They're all very, very, very knowledgeable historians that are centering a lot of their knowledge around the time period of 12,800 to 11,600 and then coming forward. That time period is called the Younger Dryas. And there is there's a theory now called the Younger Dryas Impact Theory that's been put forward by multiple different kind of alternative scientists or alternative historians that puts forward approximately, like I said, 12,800 years ago, there was a meteor or asteroid barrage that hit multiple places on the planet, but specifically a large portion hit the northern part of North America and caused a huge flood across the world, basically, and this would have reset the civilization as we know it, and there possibly could have been earlier humans or an earlier civilization like Atlantis, and even ancient Egypt could have gone back much, much, much further than what we thought it would. Not a lot of us, I'm not a historian, a lot of people believe that the ancient Egyptians started, and I can't give you an exact date, probably 9,000 to 2,500 years ago, 2,000 years ago, and that would be like 0 BC when Rome was starting to took over Egypt and started to build their empire that way, and Egypt started to die. But that this theory kind of goes into the idea that possibly human beings have been technologically advanced or more advanced than what we previously thought, and that a lot of the evidence has been covered up or destroyed because of this asteroid impact that happened 12,800 years ago. So this is something you probably should watch more podcasts on and read more about if you're really interested in that. But it's very, very interesting to me, and I'm probably going to have to spend an entire episode on this, just kind of unpacking that, because I think it's very interesting, and a lot of the history that we were taught in my generation as a millennial seems to be off. How about that? Let's just say it's off, and a lot of these different things kind of don't make sense. So that's all I'm going to say about that, because we're getting short on time. Let's talk about Critical Role: The Legends of Vox Machina Season 2. I have never played it's not true. I've played Dungeons and Dragons with my childhood friend when I was in like 6th grade, probably twice, maybe once or twice, okay? But I've never actually sat down as an adult and played the tabletop role-playing game. I would love to do that when I find time. I'm not doing a whole bunch of other things. But it's very interesting to me. I play video games when I get the chance, and I do love that fantasy scene. I used to read some Dungeons & Dragons books, and I played World of Warcraft and play League of Legends and all these other kinds of things that are very interesting to me. But I think it's extremely cool that Matthew Mercer and the rest of the Critical Role gang were able to make a long-running, almost 10-year-long weekly show about Dungeons and Dragons, where they play a tabletop role-playing game, and they have these campaigns that they go on where they build these characters out. And they're on campaign 3 now, but this show is an animated series based on this show that's been going on now for 10 years. And I think it's extremely interesting that they were able to build this brand up to a point where they could build it's an Amazon Prime animated TV show that's for adults. It's very adult content, but it's extremely funny and very interesting. Even if you're not a Dungeons and Dragons nerd or a nerd in general, you'll probably find this very interesting. So watch season 1, watch season 2. Season 2 is a lot about dragons. Season 1 is a lot about the undead and other things like that. So there you go. And that's pretty much all I have this week. I did want to mention to you guys, because I didn't yesterday, I started a new Instagram. It is David Coleman YT for YouTube, David Coleman YT. So at David Coleman YT is my Instagram. I'm going to start putting stuff up on there. I was going to do something last night. I was going to check on my chicken. I'm a hobby chicken farmer. I was going to check on my chickens, but someone had already taken care of them for me, so I didn't need to do that. But I'm going to try to post every single day a little bit about what's going on in my life and a little bit about the show. But I'm going to continue to do these daily episodes because they're interesting and fun, and I get to talk to you guys about interesting and fun topics. So go check out the Instagram at David Coleman YT. My Twitter that I'm fairly active on is at Colema, Colema 63 ETH. I talk a lot about cryptocurrencies, stocks, trading, politics, current events, all different kinds of stuff on my Twitter. So if you want to get my immediate thoughts, that's probably the best place to do it. And then on Rumble, I'm just David Coleman, and on YouTube, I am on this channel right now is David Coleman also. And sorry, Rumble is David Coleman 27, I believe. And the YouTube I just found out the other day is actually at OME Hacks. So it would be youtube.com/OME Hacks HAX. So I made that name up when I was probably, I don't know, 17 or 18 years old. So, and this is a YouTube channel from a long time ago. So anyway, follow my stuff on there. I'll be posting more on there about my daily life, even though my life is not that interesting. But go ahead and follow me if you want to learn more. So we will see you guys. I might come in and do a video tomorrow just to see what's going on, and we'll go from there. So thank you so much, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.